Hi, welcome to Reality Checks, the show where guests are invited to ask 1,000 Americans anything and then predict the results. So today we're joined by Desireé Duffy, founder of Black Château Enterprises. What are we talking about today? And welcome.
Oh, thank you, Brian. We're talking about whether Americans are affected or impacted, how they feel if they find out that a story or a book was written by AI.
It's an important topic, and I know that you're deep in the world. What are you doing? That I believe I saw a virtual book festival. You're kind of a publisher, kind of all kinds of things.
I am many things. I have 3 brands. Black Château is our PR marketing agency that focuses on books and authors. Books That Make You is our consumer brand. We do a lot of promotions and giveaways and fun stuff with Books That Make You in real life appearances, etc. And the BookFest was born during lockdown 5 years ago, and it is an online live streamed event. And we bring book lovers and authors together. So I'm right at that precipice of storytelling and books. And the thing is, if people are thinking, oh, what do I care? Books, I don't really read a lot of books. Well, books inform so many things in our lives, like the movies that we see, the television shows that we watch, how businesses behave, how brands impact the world. So I do think that books are the cornerstone of what's important in the world.
Cool. Well, I know you were saying that maybe people don't read. I know that was part of our survey, so we can dig into the findings from that. And just to verify, you have not seen these yet. You'll be finding out with the rest of America.
I will.
Cool. So first things first, how many books do Americans say they read or listen to each year?
This question makes me so nervous, Brian, because I got to say, I want to be optimistic about this and say 12 or more, but in my heart of hearts, I think our attention spans are diminishing. So I'm going to go between 1 and 3 books per year.
Between 1 and 3 books per year is the guess. And why is that? The attention spans?
I think, attention spans are diminishing. People are busy. People will go to podcasts. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with podcasts, but I feel like the way people are getting their information is a truncated version of what is out there in the world today.
All right. Yeah, nothing wrong with podcasts.
Right.
Let's see what the results say. That was the biggest segment.
Okay.
But 54%, about maybe 53%, more than 4. So 1 a season.
Yeah. All right, Brian, this is exciting. Okay. I see that the numbers are very evenly spread. We're not having one way or another. And I think that gives me hope. I think this is really awesome.
So you were expecting that 26 segment to be a little bit bigger.
I really was. So, I mean, again, I'm immersed in this industry and I just know the power of storytelling. So this gives me hope for America and the world, actually.
That's good. We always want to start with hope.
Yeah.
What do readers prefer? So taking out the people who read or listen to zero, anybody who does read or listen, fiction or nonfiction?
Oh gosh, this is one of those trends that will change a lot depending upon what's going on in the world, society. Really, that zeitgeist of how people are feeling can be impacted by the types of books that they turn to. Sometimes if things are a little crazy, people will turn more toward comfort. They want something where they can escape, and that's where fiction will win. And when things are very active and promising, people will go to nonfiction because they want to learn things. They want self-help books or they want business books that will help them see the world differently. So I'm going to say, based on where I feel people are nowadays on that spectrum, that people are going to prefer fiction because they want cozy, comforting. They want something that they can escape into.
Yeah, and we don't need to read into that at all, so to speak, read into, but the survey was done on July 4th of 2025, which, day for people to think about things. So I don't know if that changes anything, but fiction is the guess. The answer is fiction.
Oh, yay.
We had a bunch of different genres. So, it's kind of minimizing a bit to just say fiction and nonfiction. But the fiction commercial fiction was the one selected most.
Excellent. Yeah. And it's interesting too. We have nonfiction general, which could be broken up into many different subgenres, and literary fiction too tends to be one of those genres that takes a backseat to more popular genre fiction. In other words, genre fiction being like thrillers and mysteries, romance, sci-fi, fantasy, and literary fiction tends to be just a little bit more highbrow. It doesn't necessarily fall into a lot of those genre tropes. So seeing that it's that high, I think that's really cool too.
Yeah, and I know we had examples in the question. I kind of took out the types of subgenres within them just so it would fit on the chart. But yeah, that people definitely were able to pick very specifics what they like.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting too. We've got nonfiction, business, instructional, like I said, kind of broken out. And yeah, I have to imagine that probably a lot of the audience watching this would fall into that camp too, because they're looking at business, they're looking at consumer data and marketing and information. So I think that's really interesting that we got 24% there.
And we'll dig into those specific genres a little bit later. For now, our next question, where is AI most acceptable in the book creation process?
This is such a hot button issue in the world of publishing and books. Brian, if I may, just, I think that 3-5 years ago, nobody would have anticipated that AI was going to come after the job of writers. We thought of AI and even robotics as going after more rote things, not necessarily the creative stuff. And then we realized really early on that large language models could actually write. They could be creative. And they can do that because of the framework of storytelling tends to follow specific points or beats, the plot, etc. And all of a sudden, the world of books and storytellers and authors, this has become so controversial. And so to me, what's interesting is I know what the industry is thinking about this, but thinking about what the average consumer feels about it, the readers, that's where I think it's really compelling, because I don't know if they realize or even know that AI is being used to the extent it is and how controversial that is. So with all of that said, I think that the average consumer is going to kind of think it's not acceptable at all. And they're not going to even want to see it in some of the early levels of writing, such as the ideation or the content, the development, editing. So I'm going to say that they don't want to see that. And maybe to answer this question, they see the copy editing, the grammar and the punctuation. They see that as being acceptable because they're used to seeing that with the current Word and different platforms that we have that can help with the copy editing process. So I think they don't mind so much if the copy editor gets replaced, as long as the creative part of it is still coming from a human being.
And you said at the beginning, if you may, and then what you said gave me some shivers. I wish I had said you may not, because I don't feel good knowing some of that information. But yeah, it's so the guess is copy editing. And I guess, does that vary from what the industry is feeling then? Like your guess is that's what consumers think. But you also mentioned that the industry might be probably trying to figure out ways to put it in throughout the process.
Oh, they definitely are. There's entire books that are being written and published that are probably 90% done by AI. And I think that's the core of what we're getting into, is how much the general public realizes that and how it impacts them. So yeah, I think the industry as a whole, it's sad because there are professions, there are copy editors. That's a job. And a lot of them aren't working as much as they used to be right now because of AI.
Well, I will show you the results, which are that you, once again, I would say you're 3 for 3 right now. So I'm glad we had that caveat up front, didn't give you the results. But yeah, to your point, line editing or copy editing is the most selected, but it's still under 50%.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. So we've got that big fat orange 28%, so almost 30% we'll go with. say that it's not, in their opinion, acceptable at all. And I think that's really interesting, especially again coming from the general public, who might not necessarily, I think a lot of times the general public, they don't even realize how many different forms of editing there is and the process that a book goes through, because it's not just those forms of editing, but we have beta readers in there. Sometimes people don't even know what a beta reader is, but having somebody, a human being, read and respond to how the book is impacting them. Because I think overall, and this is where we kind of came together, Brian, when we started talking about doing this survey and doing this podcast, is underneath it all, I believe that human beings still want a real human experience when they're reading a book. They want to be able to crawl into the skin of the author, fiction or nonfiction, because they want to know that that information is coming from a human and not necessarily from a robot.
Which generation is most okay with AI being used for books? Given that, we're looking at that, what was it, like 28% said it was not acceptable at all. So it's still, none of them really think it's acceptable. But is there anyone who might or might not be more inclined to use it?
I am going to go with, okay, I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to go with, let's say 54 plus, or I'm not quite sure exactly how this is broken out, boomers. I actually think that they might be more okay with AI because of the fact that they don't necessarily see the difference. Whereas people that are a little bit younger, millennials, Gen X, they, I think, may see this as something that is disruptive in the world and the industry to them. They're just those writers, those readers are just coming into their own, and they might be able to perceive the threat that AI might present to them as readers, writers, human beings.
I will say it was closer than I thought. I thought the baby boomer stat it looked odd, but now that you've explained that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm with you, Brian. I'm so surprised because I would have thought that this would not have been quite so spread out. But yeah, it just goes to show us, I guess. And this is why doing surveys and polling people, I mean, we can sit there and guess what we think people believe, right? But this is why data like this is so helpful, not just to me as a marketer, but I think to the general public and people in the publishing world that are grappling with these questions, because this is very inspiring to some degree and very interesting. So, yeah.
We love to hear that. Of course, that's what we do. So, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next question: when should AI be disclosed? So I think we asked, like, you mentioned earlier, 90%, or 0%. Is it always? Is it never?
Yeah, and when does the reader want to know? Do they want to know as they're shopping for their next book whether AI was used, how much AI was used, or is it okay towards the end of the process or after they're done? I think because people are going to feel a little bit cheated or misled if they get to the end of a book and then they find out, oh, at the end of the book, it says this book was written 90% by artificial intelligence. I think that will feel like a betrayal. So with that in mind, I think people want to know from the get-go that that book was written by AI, or how much it was written by AI, or how much AI assisted in the writing process. I'm gonna go with
regardless of the amount, they want to know.
Yeah, in the beginning.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yay. But I do think it's interesting that there are some that, I mean, you got the percentages listed here too, which is really fascinating. And there are some people that they don't care. 15% of people don't care at all. That's amazing if you really think about it, because, I mean, what if it's a textbook for one's child? Do they care then? What if it's giving a version of history that may not necessarily be accurate because AI is just deriving the information from various places? What if it's giving self-help advice about diet, exercise, relationships? And then that's coming from AI rather than a real human being who studied it and researched it and is bringing their human experience to the table. So yeah, that's interesting. It's hopeful on the one hand, and I think it's, we kind of got the two sides, and the fact that we got 15% of people that are just like, fascinating.
Yeah, one side quadruples the other side, but the side is still there. All right, and our last question kind of touches on which, what you were just saying. So our last question is, which genres readers care most and least about AI? So I think the specific one was like, would you be more or less fulfilled after you finish reading to find out that AI was used?
Yeah. And okay. So I kind of touched on some of those genres where I think that people are going to care if it's in the classroom, it's a textbook, it's children's books. I mean, and there's so many different categories of genres and stuff, but I think many parents and educators and people that have little ones in our lives, and let's face it, everybody has a little, whether it's a niece, a nephew, grandchild. So I think when it impacts children, education, textbooks, I think that's where people are going to lean to caring the most.
Cool. And then I think we'll be able to show that in the little write-up we do at the end. I think for this one, I only took the top 5 that we had shown earlier, so I should have clarified that. That's my bad.
Oh, okay, so, got it.
So like of the top 5, which were, I want to say, literary fiction, the 2 nonfictions, the sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And I think in that regard, I'm gonna go with general nonfiction because again, that can kind of be a book where it's a historical, or it has that business advice, self-help advice. So in that case, yeah, I'm definitely going to go with the general nonfiction.
And that's who cares the least about AI, or the most?
Oh, the most.
Okay.
That's who cares the most about AI. Yeah.
All right. Well, I would say the headline is the orange. Everybody would be less fulfilled finding out about AI after reading.
And that's interesting too, because I went with general nonfiction because that tends to help people and you want to know that the advice you're getting is authentic. And I would have guessed the reason I didn't go with fiction, especially genre fiction, is it can be very consumable. Think of how a romance reader, somebody who reads romance novels, they're voracious readers. A romance reader can go through easily a book a week, if not a couple of books a week. And people who like mysteries and thrillers, you think of how it's a page turner, right? It's because you want to go really fast and just get that gratification of having this thrill ride. So that, I think, Brian, gives me a little bit of hope, actually, that people, even reading fiction and different types of fiction, that even they feel that it's that important. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's, if nothing else, it's people want transparency, but it seems like they want humanity too.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you for joining today for Reality Checks. People can find more data from this episode at yougov.com/realitychecks. And where can they find you?
Oh, I'm easy to find. You can go to Black Château Enterprises.com. That's our agency. We're also thebookfest.com and booksthatmakeyou.com. Plus, I'm on LinkedIn and most of the social media sites. So you can find me and connect with me there.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Brian, thank you. I appreciate this. This was fun.
Hey, thanks for watching Reality Checks. All the data in this episode was based on a survey of 1,000 Americans using YouGov Surveys self-serve. If you want to read into the data more, you can. Just head over to yougov.com/realitychecks. We have some charts, stuff that was cut for time from today's episode, a little bit of analysis. And if you don't find what you're looking for, feel free to get in touch and we can help you out. You can also run your own survey too, whether it's on books or dinosaurs. Thanks for watching. Keep watching and go check out what Desiree's up to. Thanks. Bye.